I was here in, let me see, 81 to 82, and I had been at Trinity College, Cambridge for 3 years before that. I got a fourth-year grant from my education authority, and I auditioned here and was lucky enough to get in. For me, at Cambridge, which I think is typical of university experience for a lot of people, is you do a lot of shows very quickly, quick turnover, very good. It's almost like a rep, at least I think that now. I perhaps didn't think that at the time. But what it lacked was technical training, I suppose, and an obvious line into the profession. I came here, it was very welcome, it was very interesting. I did get offered a place, and as I say, I just thought I must try and go through the system and get into it that way. And I think also I was looking, I was very young, even having done 3 years at university. I'd never lived in London before. I think I was looking for an institution to sort of take me in, which it did, and they were a wonderful bunch of students, certainly. I do remember a great variety of different texts, and certainly doing scenes from very different productions, and we did some stuff from Spring Awakening, stuff from A Woman of No Importance, the Trojan Women I think we did at the end of my final year as one of the shows, and I particularly remember Patrick Tucker, I think it was, coming to do the Shakespeare weekends, which we've been told we should really, attend if we possibly could, even though the weekend, and again, even now I remember it was absolutely fantastic, and I remembered them recently when the Sam Wanamaker Theatre opened and Jim Rosson's on in Duchess of Malfi, and the whole thing of the candlelit space, which Patrick was very keen on. The first thing he did was turn out all the lights and make us sit in a circle with candles, and then he took us through the text. And he did this extraordinary thing with Shakespeare, showing you how, if you really analyse the poetry and a lot of the work, there's so much stage direction in there. There's so much direction as to how you deliver the lines and the way that the metre is distributed and things like that, onomatopoeia and alliteration. He was very good, but it wasn't overly literal by any means. He was the most charismatic teacher I remember. The most valuable thing that I got from DSL, if I put my finger on it, would be the singing and the voice training from Teresa van Sertima, who was the singing coach, singing teacher I should say, here at that time. And that may sound a little bit frivolous, but it's not at all. I mean, I felt when I came that I'd had a huge amount of experience in just doing shows and getting things up and running in maybe 2 or 3 weeks from scratch. The vast majority of my contemporaries at that time didn't have that experience. They were, talented and interesting in different ways, and a lot of them had come from very different walks of life. I mean, I don't know if it's still the case, but it certainly seemed to me at the time that it was a much more eclectic selection of ordinary people with many different stories than you would get in a normal homogenous drama school intake. So I suppose living real life through them a little bit was a help, but I always think of Tessa, even now when I'm doing a vocal warm-up, and the way she would march around the room, often literally poking people in the diaphragm, and as often as not enhancing their projection. She's quite an extraordinary person. My first job was as an understudy, and it was my best break. Still, I can say that 32 years later, because it was to go into the West End production of Another Country, Julian Mitchell's play about the school days of Guy Burgess, who became one of the famous spies of the 50s and 60s. And it was a brilliant play, and it offered an opportunity for young actors who could play public school boys in the 1930s. I was told to go and see it by friends here then because they thought it would supply good audition speeches, which it did, and I then wrote to the producer, Robert Fox, and stayed in touch with him through his assistant. And when they recast it, which they had done after a slightly precarious 6-month run in the West End, I, after sort of going in and meeting them and giving up and getting a call and being told I would have to wait for a provisional equity card to see if that could happen, and giving up on that call and then waiting and then getting the call, it really was a sort of fairy story thing. And then I was told that they could take me, but would I mind understudying the actor they got to play the lead, who was a young unknown called Daniel Day-Lewis. So I said I thought I'd probably wouldn't mind doing that, even though nobody knew who he was at that point. I was just completely over the moon. And then I do remember, whenever it was, 4 or 5 weeks after leaving this place, standing on Shaftesbury Avenue and looking up and down and seeing just neon signs, you know, like nothing on earth, and thinking it's never going to be as good as this again. I don't know if I have any advice for young actors now, other than obviously you've got to do it if you love it. You have to learn how to spend the time when you're not acting in some way that doesn't drive you mad. I still haven't learned how to do that. If my wife was here, she would say, you know, if he's not working, he is certifiable. If you have a second string outside acting, away from acting, but maybe complementary to it or not, that you know will help make your living, then don't give up on it. It will help you through the lean times.